Our guest today is Elio Narciso, founder and CEO of Scalestack. It's an all-in-one data enrichment, prioritization, and activation platform that allows go-to-market teams to easily map GTM data from many different sources to their ideal customer profile and to their sales engine.
Thank you, Ken. Scalestack is a company that we started about 3 years ago, a little bit less. Before that, I spent a number of years at Amazon, AWS specifically, where I was a BD leader in charge of a program called the AWS Global Startup Program, that really supported fantastic mid to late stage startups. And then even before that, I've started a number of companies since I did an MBA here, and I spent most of my time during the MBA at the Entrepreneurship Center. I became in love, I fell in love with the idea of starting companies, and so I haven't stopped since.
You had this unique opportunity when you were at AWS. What it was that you saw, what did you recognize that led to success or lack of success from your time while advising these startups?
Well, first off, I think that I was very curious about Amazon specifically because I joined in late 2017, early 2018. So it was growing like crazy. And the quick answer, I think, was it's all about hiring well. And Amazon is really obsessed with the hiring. I became a bar raiser at Amazon. You have veto power on any hiring process that you participate in. But so this aside, so my curiosity for Amazon was big, and obviously AWS has a huge sales team, and sales is much, very much like direct sales, and obviously they get a lot of leads because it's AWS, but it's very much like a sales machine. And so that was interesting, and I saw how there was the potential to do better for the reps who needed to better understand their targets in their territory, in their patch, and understand how to prioritize their efforts. There were reps at AWS that had hundreds, or in some cases the startup reps, thousands of accounts. And so how do you prioritize your efforts? It's very much a data problem, So I'm gonna focus on solving the equation of who do I sell into first, especially for companies like AWS with a wide addressable market, meaning those companies that promise a higher or faster conversion rate. And then there was the program that I launched, the AWS Global Startup Program, that I launched because I saw the opportunity for AWS to basically have better relationship with some of their high potential customers by helping them in their go-to-market. And my team and I uncovered pockets of inefficiency and pockets of opportunities in their own go-to-market. And one big area is if you look, and there are studies about this, Salesforce interviewed 8,000 reps last year, and they asked them, what do you do all day? And the result was, 72% of my time is spent on non-selling, which is sort of what I was seeing at these startups. They had prospecting docs telling them, hey, go on Crunchbase, research the companies, and then go on LinkedIn Sales Navigator and find out about profiles and titles, and then go on Lucia or Apollo to find the contact details. And so you wasted 3 hours doing this if you have to do it for hundreds or even thousands of companies, right? And so this problem, the inefficiency and productivity gap for reps, was one big problem that I uncovered. And then the other was about the general dissatisfaction that companies have with their data. I would say 99% of the companies we talk to, and when we ask them, are you happy with the data in your CRM? The answer is no, not really.
Certainly, I've never met an effective salesperson that loved their admin work, right? The most effective salespeople seem to do the least of that work. I don't know what that's about, but certainly admin takes away from the job of building relationships and making the sale. So to the extent we can take it away from them, that's really important.
I think that they're definitely related. I don't know which one is the cause or which one is the symptom or like the result. I think that they're definitely interconnected. But let's assume that like it's nobody's fault. I think that the the specific act of like creating, so to say, like data that you need for your go-to-market is not really where you want your salespeople to spend time on, right? So they should spend time on consuming well-orchestrated, well-cleaned, and enriched data so that they can learn more about their customers or prospects, and so that they can have a better meeting, like they can prioritize their time better. So they should spend time like consuming the data. And instead, like what happens is that they spend time generating the data so that you have less time to consume it and even less time to actually spend time with the customers.
Yeah, I think also you're asking folks who may not have the research skill sets to become researchers, right? So instead of serving up the salient information to facilitate the sale, we're making these folks now researchers, and so it's a lot. I think it's a lot to ask, and I think it's cool that you're addressing those problems. Um, I want to go back in time though a little bit, um, and ask you. You founded three other companies, and two of those I think went to successful exit. One of them
Yep.
didn't. What's one or two lessons maybe from the one that didn't work out? Like, what can you give people to look out for?
I literally yesterday overheard like somebody on the phone in Spanish talking to I don't know whom was on the phone, and he said like bad like things that happen to you give you experience, and good things just try to enjoy them. He said it much better than I did, and he said it in Spanish, like so it was beautiful. But basically, I learned a ton, much more from like the one that didn't work out than like from the two that did work out. Although I enjoyed the first two more than I did enjoy the third. Having said that, I think that there are many learning, but I think one of them is that I got in love with the technology and tried to find and then after that I tried to find the problem that technology or solution could solve. And so I fell in love with the technology, but then we had to spend all of our time finding a problem that needed solving with that technology. You know what I mean? And so
Sure.
I think that first and foremost is like find the problem that it's big enough that you're passionate about and that you want to solve, and then work backwards to find the solution to that problem and the product and technology that you need to develop to solve it. Because if you do the other way around, maybe you're lucky, but if you're not, it's going to be a very painful road. And so I think that that's first thing that I learned. I mean, many other learnings about the type of team that you want to have and like the type of culture that you want to put into the org. I think that at that company, uh, we made like a lot of mistakes in, like not really thinking. We thought a lot about the culture and the values and all of that, but we weren't able to translate that into almost operational things that like make the company better because of the culture. And again, that's also what I learned at Amazon. I mean, like, how do you manage a company with like hundreds of thousands of people, right? So like, it's crazy. And Amazon has done a phenomenal job at having this like really strongly held leadership principles that are not only painted on walls, which there also are, and it's a little bit creepy, but like they are painted like the leadership principles on walls. But like what's very important is that they hire against the leadership principles, they assess people against the leadership principles, they use the verbiage in the leadership principles in like regular internal meetings. And so they live and breathe those principles and they use them actively. And I think at that company, we had the values, but we weren't able to translate them into action, into like the type of people that we wanted to hire or the type of approach that we wanted to have. And so those two, I think, are big learning from that experience, that we have tried to, solve at Scalestack, or are trying to solve at Scalestack.
Tell me what, like, as you were trying to formalize that, and this gets back to this conversation about having the right product and, solving for a pain, not being, having a hammer and thinking everything's a nail,
Right.
right? So how did you go from, hey, I've got an idea, to um, validating it and starting to build the product, build the case and the product?
Look, I think it's all about customers. Call it, like users, customers, like partners that help you develop the product. If you do it on your own, even though like you're like subject matter expert and you think you know a lot, I don't think it's gonna work. Building a company is, and I think it was Mark Andreessen that said this, or at least I heard it from him, that like, building a startup is like, progressively removing layers of risks. And I think at the earliest stages, like, and that's why also companies that succeed, startups that succeed, most likely have more than one founder. So like, it's all about like how many people you can progressively convince that what you're saying makes sense. Companies that have more than one founder are typically more successful than mono-founder companies, because you have been able to convince someone else. And then like, if those, 2, 3 founders are able to convince like, some early adopters or users to try like, the MVP that they built. And then if they can try to convince like, really smart people to join that effort. And then if like, it becomes more customers that are starting to vote with their dollars, I think that that's really the market research that you have to do. Are you able to convince more people that what you're saying makes sense? If it's just you and like, are pursuing like a crazy vision, I think sometimes it works. And we have clearly evidence that can work. But like most of the time, I think it doesn't. And you have to convince others to join the effort, give you money, like pay for your product or pay with their time for your product and helping you making it better. And that's sort of what we have done at Skillstack, that like, immediately after like a very tiny development phase of the MVP, we went out and like, hey, do you want to try this? Do you want to like work with us to make it better if it can solve like some of these problems? And so I think that that's how we have like built piece by piece the company. And and we'll continue to do so by like following customers in what like we think can help them, and learning a lot from them.
So it's kind of like a customer-led product model, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you want to bring innovation, you want to bring like solutions that they, I mean, like that they didn't think about or they cannot develop on their own. But we are here at the end of the day to solve customer problems. Absolutely. I mean, like, and that's how like we're gonna build like a business that like makes sense. If like, we keep solving customers' problems in like the easiest form with less friction at the right price point. But at the end of the day, we need to solve problems.
Let's talk about Scalestack. What does it actually do?
So first off, we work with like, enterprises, particularly companies that have like a wide addressable market, so companies that sell to, I don't know, developers, marketeers, finance, HR, like with wide addressable markets so that they can sell their product to many people or companies, because that means that their ability to leverage data to prioritize their sales and marketing efforts becomes even more important. And putting order to that becomes essential to their success. And so what we do for like this relevant org with like, millions of leads or hundreds of thousands of target account companies is we order and prioritize their sales and marketing efforts by doing a number of things. But at its core, what Scalestack is a workflow builder. We create automated workflows that orchestrate data from any data source, whether that's like internal data that you have about your product or first-party data that people fill forms and send to the marketing team, or third-party data that you buy, and then make sense of this data so that it connects to your ideal customer profile. And that's what we think is the missing link in the go-to-market motion today. That you have tons of data. Companies have more data than they need. So what we do is enrichment of data for accounts, leads, for outbound motions, inbound motions. It works for the enterprise where you have to have lots of data managed at scale and securely. We're SOC 2 compliant, and orchestrate all of that data to activate the go-to-market teams.
I want to ask you sort of a follow-up question about your organization. You're focused on an enterprise target, right? Can you talk a little bit about the relationship with these larger clients and how they're contributing to the evolution of the product?
I think that the counterintuitive answer is that I think it's actually easier to build and sell into the enterprise because if you sell to teams or customers that you don't really see, let's say you open your website and you sell your software on the website, you don't see your customers so closely, and so you make a lot of assumptions, you would make a lot of mistakes, plus you can only charge a little bit and you cannot charge a lot, and so a lot of these motions are very complex, and it takes a long time to build for a long tail type of customer. But I think it's faster to build for the enterprise. The risk, as you are correctly pinpointing, is that you are custom developing, right? So that you develop custom software for the enterprise. And that's been our main focus, that we are here to create a product. So we'll work with the enterprises that want to work with us and listen to what they have to say, but then productize what we think is something that is common across many potential customers. That's the risk that you run building a product for the enterprise. Then you say yes. I think that's the problem. You say yes too many times. You have to be able to say no. No, we don't do this, or we're not doing this right now. And so I think that that's the risk that you need to handle. But I actually think it's easier to build a startup and to get to revenues building for the enterprise.
Talking about the product, you mentioned that there's some AI being integrated in the product, and I'm interested where that plays out and why.
The mission of the company is really to automate all of the boring work that people do in go-to-market. So it's really to free up people's time of a lot of boring work that they have to do to actually get to what they want to do, which is selling. And so with that mission in mind, automate as much as possible, we, from the earlier stages of the company, we have used not just automation, but also AI to perform a lot of different tasks that humans have been, doing in go-to-market, such as cleaning the data, correcting labels of account names that people have put wrong in the CRM. So there is a lot of duplicated accounts that are actually the same company just because someone put a slightly different name. Or we leverage AI to create parent-child relationship between the accounts so that there is, I don't know, Google in Mountain View, and then there is Google Ireland and Google, and so the software detects this parent-child relationship and properly categorizes the data. or like, I don't know, to normalize sub-industries. Like, every company has an industry, but like sub-industries, like, typically linked to the specifics of what you sell. And so each company has their own sub-industry categories. And we use AI to properly categorize target customers or prospects by that, or like to synthesize information and data. So like some of our customers leverage our AI to, for instance, like they have us read, quote unquote, the company description, and we synthesize for them, is this a B2B or B2C company, which is not a data point that you usually find. So we're deploying AI in a meaningful way and at a large scale. I mean, some of our customers like MongoDB have like, literally hundreds of millions of data points to do all of these actions: clean the data, deduplicate, like, normalize, synthesize. And we use like, generally available LLMs. But like the prompt engineering to do all of this is our secret sauce, because we, in each module, which are like the tiniest components of our platform that perform specific data actions, we leverage AI with prompt engineering that pulls like the right action depending on the business goal that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, mention something that I think um, leads me to this question, which is what are the areas where integrations really play a role in your go-to-market, and how are you building those?
It's very important. I mean, at the end of the day, like for our workflow builder, the ability to pull data from many different sources and to put data in many different places and apps and systems is very important. And so from the very beginning, this idea of what we call the universal API that we have developed to like, connect any data source, connect to any system, and like easily transfer data back and forth is very important. And so we have like worked on the integration layer more from the product perspective, and we're doing like interesting stuff so that we allow third parties to build on the workflow that we put together for customers. So that like, we are not going to develop all of the modules, but like, if there is like interested developers that want to build on top of the workflow for a specific customer for a particular data action that the customer needs, we'll let them, and obviously share the revenues of that. And that's an interesting product development that we are operating. The next level will be integrations for go-to-market. We are working on like, integrating our product with like other products that like, enable us to co-sell to similar customers.
Last question. So what's your go-to-market plan for Scalestack for the rest of this year and into the next?
It's definitely my biggest priority right now. And I mean, until now, I think we've been devoting a lot of energy to develop the product and like, be very focused on like, the initial customers and like, deliver for them. We have now like, moved our attention to like definitely new logo acquisition. And so we have a number of initiatives that we are deploying. I think that they're like the broader categories are: one, we want to bring this vision and message to many more people. Hence, the pleasure in reconnecting with you is also consistent with that effort, meaning like, we need to elevate what we think is the problem in go-to-market today, and particularly in the targeting phase of the sales process, and offer our solution. And so, we have our own podcast that we have launched. It's called Revenue Engine Masters. And we are like, hosting like lots of different guests that like, are RevOps leaders, sales ops leaders, and marketing ops leaders that like, we like and we think have like interesting things to say. I'm gonna be like touring quite a bit over the next few months. I'm gonna be a SaaSter. I'm gonna be a SaaS talk. I'm gonna present like at an SBI conference for like PE-backed companies to their CROs and like, VP level type of people. And so bringing this message to a wider audience is like very important, and it's going to be, very important going forward. Then obviously, like the direct sales motion, it's also very important and powered by Scalestack, of course, and by the data that we orchestrate for ourselves. The third area is partnerships. I think, fundamentally, when I was at Amazon, I was in a partner role. And so I really discovered there like the power that like creating an ecosystem can do to your business. And like, AWS built like the AWS partner network, and like, they have tens of thousands of partners, from consulting companies to like independent software vendors that like obviously bring a lot of business. And so I think that like taking a page from, from that, we want to build our own ecosystem. We started from like, consulting companies, RevOps companies like Carabinier Group. We signed a partnership with them, and like, they target similar customers with a, solution-based type of approach. We bring our product and we co-sell. But then also like, we have an advocate network that we're building of like leaders in RevOps, SalesOps that can help us like, bring more customers close to us. So I think that the partnership side will take like increased importance in a number of different directions, including like investors. I mean, because of our own fundraising, we have talked to many investors, and some of them are like, really large, and they have like a wide portfolio. And so we're building motions to develop relationships with them so that we can help their portfolio companies become better at their own go-to-market.
Yeah, partnership's so important for young companies, right? You get a leverage effect. It's very hard to mount a national sales force right out of the gate.
You need to be careful also. I think that like, they can be destructive, especially if you partner with a large company. You need to not just follow, but build your own ecosystem. And like where like it's reciprocal, what you give and what you get, and build each other businesses. And so I think that that's the lens, because partnering with larger companies at our stage is, full of risks.
If people want to reach out to you to learn more about your experiences, or maybe more importantly, Scalestack, how can they find you?
Definitely on Scalestack.ai website. And I don't know if you would put my LinkedIn, but like my door is open, and I can be reached out at elio@scalestack.ai.